Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Let's talk about Alexis and Sam. Because, that was interesting. Pretty much, Sam gets over to Alexis' house. Once again, she starts confronting her about her drinking. And she talks about how her drinking, is a danger to Sam's kids. She brings up the incident about where Alexis went to sleep, passed out, drunk or whatever, and the house nearly burnt down where Sam's kids was in, or one of her children were in. And then Alexis is like, you sit there and talk about how I'm a danger to your kids, and yet you're still with Jason. And at that point, I was like, she has a point. I mean, let's be honest, she has a point. I mean, hell, how many times was, and yeah, at one point, Alexis brung up Morgan, and she brung up, just other stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? You can't sit there and start talking about how, you can't talk about how Alexis is deemed to your kids, and yet you're still with Jason. Like, it just, like, and that's the thing that, some people don't like about Sam. Hell, when she was with, Drew, when he thought that he was Jason, he gave up that life to be with Sam and the kids. Jason comes back. I didn't see him make that choice. Like, listen, I like, Jason's my guy. That's, among my favorite characters. He's one of my favorite characters. But, when it comes to Sam and the kids, you can say what you want, but he's always going to sit there and choose Sonny, Carly, and the business over Sam. And so for her to sit there and get upset with Alexis and be like, oh, you're deflecting this, that, and the third, is like, she has a point. And for whatever reason, I get that you're trying to help, but, like, you're not seeing that. And at any point in time, did she ever really question that? Like, did she ever sit there and think, you know what? Why isn't me and my kids enough for Jason? Hell, it's not like he's hurting for money or anything like that. He comes from a rich family. But yeah, Sam was like, listen, if you're not gonna stop drinking, then I'm not gonna let you be around my kids. She gave her a choice, and pretty much Alexis, more or less kind of just said, screw you. And so, Sam was like, well, you gave me your answer. And then she was also like, tomorrow I'm gonna sit there and tell Christina and Molly that you're drinking. And then she walked out the door, and Alexis was crying. And I felt like there was really no winner, in that scenario. I mean, Sam did her best to go there to try to help her mother. And that's great, But, I mean, Alexis made some valid points. And I'm just wondering, at any point over these next couple episodes, is she even going to acknowledge that a little bit? Like, you want to sit there and talk about the danger and stuff like that of Alexis, but yet Jason and Sonny has enemies a mile long, and yet you're still choosing to be with a guy who is going to constantly put you in danger, you and your kids in danger for the rest of your life. I mean, have you not looked at Carly and her situation? And you're still just like, nah, I'm cool with it. I don't know. Let's talk about Jason and Britt. So, at some point, Britt is there playing pool. Jason, joins her. They start talking. Pretty much just, Jason's just trying to find out more about, like, where she stands. Just trying to get, like, more information out of her. And I'm assuming at this point, try to get, Britt on Jason's side. They're talking and stuff like that, and he's pretty much asking her, like, why you know, why'd you come back? Is it for a specific reason? You know, did you have someone on you, something? You know, did you come back here for... There's a reason besides the fact that, like, you just saw it as a good offer. So they're talking it up or whatever, and then Lulu comes over, and I'm not gonna lie, she kind of screwed it up. Now, Lulu, first of all, she's with Peter, and she gives him a story that her and Jackie is gonna publish, and Peter looks at that like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. This is slander. You have no facts, no sources, nothing. And at this point, I'm like, Lulu, what are you doing? Not only are you going to tank your job, tank your career, I feel like Lulu's the type of person that she makes choices based off of her emotions. Like, she makes, like, there's a word I want to use. She makes impulse choices based on her emotions. And so she goes over, you know, and this is after Peter's like, you pretty much need to rewrite this. Come at it from a different angle. You know, she comes over to Britt and pretty much just talking about how she's a bad person, she's a terrible person, she did this, that, and the third. And Britt is like, yeah, so, I'm going to go back to the hospital now, and, you can do you. So, Jason talks to Lulu, and, you know, this is the part where I'm just like, wow, Lulu, Jason and Lulu starts talking, and pretty much, you know, Lulu's like, you know, do you think that, like, Britt is going to be, like, your inside girl or whatever, you know, like, as far as, like, you know, taking down Cyrus and stuff. You know, you're going to sit there and try to get on your side. And they talk for a little bit, and pretty much Jason's like, listen, you're not going to sit there and try to get any information out of her. Because at one point, Lulu's like, you know, maybe I should do a story on her or whatever. And Jason's like, that's a bad idea, because it could attract Cyrus. And plus, Britt isn't going to help you. Like, you attacking her isn't going to, like, get information from her. And at one point, yeah, you know, Jason's like, listen, if you write an article, you know, it's going to attract Cyrus, it's going to get him to come at you. And Lulu's like, good. And Jason's like, well, by come at you, mean like, you know, kill you, pretty much, or hurt you, or hurt somebody in your family. And Lulu's like, do you think he'll do that? Let me get this straight. Just try to... So, up until this point, Lulu has been just going at Cyrus left and right, and that they're just pretty much being a smartass. And she asked Jason, do you think he would come after me? This guy is a drug lord, a crime lord, and you're just asking the question now, do you think that he'll come? When she said that, I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. You can't be this dumb. You can't be. That's just not possible. Just the surprised look on her face, like, you think you'll come after me? So at this point, you know, Jason's just like, you know, listen, just kind of let things unwind, you know, just kind of just fall back, don't really, you know, come at Cyrus so hard. So at some point, she goes back and she's, you know, sitting on a laptop, she's sitting with a laptop, and then she writes a story, and she pretty much kind of talks about the stuff that Jason was saying. As far as, you know, Jason was into telling her about, you know, how Cyrus is kind of like dismantling stuff in the hospital, as far as like getting rid of certain people that's close to Jason and Sonny, and for what reason. And she writes that, and then she sends it. And I'm like, it just seemed like it was one of those things, like she looked there, it's like, yeah, this looks good. Boop. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, the last time that you sent something without really thinking about the consequences of your actions, this was twice. And yes, this was one of the times with Nathan, and the other time with Brooklyn. And she did it thinking that she was in the right. And I'm just waiting for whatever she sent to blow up in her face. Because I'm just like, Lulu, you at some point, you gotta learn, right? And I get it. Maybe you could sit there and just chalk this up to, you know what? She's a journalist, she writes stories, and, you know, sometimes she goes on instincts like journalists do or whatever, or reporters do. And, you know, you can chalk this up to a mistake, but then we can also chalk this up to Lulu being Lulu and not learning from her previous mistakes. I guess time will tell. Now, let's talk about Tiger and Sunny real quick. Pretty much they just kind of catch up. And at some point, you know, Tiger informed Sunny that, you know, he was spotted by, you know, Julian. And, you know, I mean, they're talking about other stuff. Just, you know, just catching them up on stuff like Connie and Ava and how she kind of, you know, got away with the murder or whatever. But, like, you know, since she's the mother of his child, it's like, whatever. But at some point, you know, at some point, Tiger talks about, you know, pretty much meeting Julian at the docks and meeting him again. And, you know, Sunny's not really that upset. Yeah, he doesn't like the fact that, you know, he's been spotted, but, you know, he's starting to piece together stuff about Julian and what he's doing and why is he doing it and why was he at the pier and, you know, Ava running around for some odd reason. Some of the stuff is starting to come together. Up until the point where Jason comes to the hospital and gets Julian's like, hey, Sunny wants to see you. He's like, Sunny wants to see you. And Julian's like, oh, but I don't have time. And Jason just grabs his arm like, yeah, I ain't trying to hear all that. Now, yeah, earlier, you know, you have Ava and Julian talking. First of all, they're talking about Ryan. And surprise, surprise, Ryan didn't immediately die. And so they talk a little bit. And at some point, I don't remember who, or how the conversation really started, but at some point, you know, Julian starts talking about Tiger and how Tiger spotted him, you know, at the docks first. And, I mean, by the way, you know, Ava is, like, shocked to learn that, you know, Tiger's alive, and she feels bad for Trina. And, but at this point, Ava's like, listen, we may not just have to worry about Cyrus. We may have to worry about Taggart. Because if Taggart tells Sunny, you know, that you're at the docks, I mean, he's going to start to piece stuff together. So at this point, you know, Ava's like, you should just run. Which, I'm going to be honest, is looking really well at this point. I don't think he's going to run because he's going to be under Cyrus' protection. Which, by the way, I don't know why he didn't just sit there and tell Ava. I mean, hell, at this point, Ava's already involved in your little cover-up, and you're not giving her the full information of who you did this mysterious deal with. Meanwhile, you got Ava running around town, fighting your battles, being accomplished to your mess, and you don't even have the decency to sit there and tell her who you got to sit there and try to kill Ryan. And by the way, you know what? Since we're on this, Ava pretty much calls Julian out for, so now you're making a deal with whoever this guy is, or whoever this person is, and what happens when they collect. You're just digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper. And I feel like at this point, you're dragging Ava down with you. Now, Ava's no saint. I mean, hell, she killed Connie in cold blood. So it's not like a lot of sympathy, but I mean, she is trying to do good by you, and you're taking her down with you. It's like, I hate to sit there and say this, but how much of a scumbag are you going to become in the next couple of weeks? Like, just how low are you going to go? And so, yeah, at some point where, you know, Jason is there pulling, Julie in the elevator, Ava's like, oh crap. Yep. He's in trouble. So we're going to find out Monday how this whole thing is going to go down. And last I want to sit there and talk about is pretty much Finn, Maxie, Anna, Robert, and Peter. So at this point, we'll start with Finn and Maxie. So yesterday, we left off where Anna was there calling Finn, and then Alex showed up right in the house. So at this point, Alex shows up, and she brings Maxie. Finn tries to does his best to sit there and cover up or whatever. So he gets off the phone, and he's sitting there talking with Alex and Maxie and stuff like that, talking about what kind of gift I should sit there and give for Peter for him being part of my groomsmen or whatever. And he asks, at this point, Alex to go in the kitchen to get some tea or whatever, while, we kind of just sit there and talk about, presents and stuff. Or he sent her away for some odd reason, I don't remember why. So he sends her away, and Finn is like, yo, you gotta leave. Maxie, being Maxie, decides to be stubborn and be like, why am I leaving for? What's going on? You're scaring me. Why should I leave for? Listen, honestly, to tell you the truth, at one point I'm like, because if you would have left, this wouldn't have really happened, Like, you probably would have got a head start at least. But, to some extent, Maxie just not knowing what's going on, I get why she asked questions. Of course, Alex came back in with a gun, and, so now at this point, Alex got Maxie and Finn, held hostage, while, Robert and Anna try to get there in time. So they're talking, Alex is sitting there talking and talking and talking. They get to a point where Finn gets close enough to grab the gun. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I already knew what was going to happen when the commercial break, like when I fast forward past the commercial break because I had it on DVR. I was like, well, Finn got shot. Come back, Finn got shot. So, Finn is sitting there pretty much bleeding out on, Anna's carpet. And, Alex takes Maxie's hostage. So, I guess she takes him to the haunted star because I guess there's not really that much sets she could really take her to. And I guess it makes sense, she needed a boat or whatever, so whatever. So she takes her over there. They start talking. And, Alex starts trying to drop little hints or whatever, like, oh, well, me and Peter are so alike, and, we have so many secrets, and you want to know a secret about Peter? And, of course, Maxie's like, no, because they're alive, and blah, blah, blah. Maxie, at some point, maybe you should probably start to listen to some of the people in your life. And, by the way, that was a great comment that, I can't remember who wrote it, but somebody was like, yo, Peter, like, Maxie needs to start listening to some of the people in her life. People that she's known for years. And if a lot of people are sitting there saying the same thing, and they know her, I'm not sitting there saying you gotta believe everything, but to sit there and dismiss it and be so pig-headed is like, whatever. So just as, Alex is about to sit there and share whatever secret, which I'm assuming is that, well, not whatever secret, just as Alex is about to sit there and tell Maxie that, Alex is her real mother or whatever. That's when Anna shows up. Now, apparently, Alex was going to take Maxie on a helicopter with some strange people or whatever, but at some point, the boat rocks, like, hard. And, of course, this is, Anna being super spy, Which, by the way, it probably would have been a cool scene if they would actually have the money and like stunt people, whatever, to actually show it properly. You know, seeing Alex, seeing Anna being like an actual super spy, whatever. You know, on a speedboat, I imagine. But anyway, she gets there, and she has a gun on Alex, and so now it's showdown time apparently, and yeah, yeah. I I was not there saying to myself, and by the way, the review's over. I was not there saying to myself, GH is actually getting interesting. I mean, a lot of times with these soap operas, Days, GH, whatever, they have their slumps. And sometimes they have their fillers. Like, Sunny and Tagger was mostly filler. The only purpose that Tagger served as far as talking to Sunny was the fact that, he was informing him about, meeting Julian at the docks and stuff like that, and just kind of helping Sunny piece together, what's going on with Julian and Ava and stuff like that. But other than that, they were filler. The most interesting stuff that happened was with Anna and that whole thing. And, what else? I guess Julian. Well, yeah. Anna and that whole thing, and Julian and Sunny and stuff like that. That was the most interesting stuff. The whole Taggart and Sunny stuff catching up was like, alright, that's cool and everything, but, I mean, I guess it's for the new people. Other than that, it was kind of filler. But, for the most part, it was actually a good episode. Anyway, with that being said, let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Oh, and I also forgot about, Sam and Alexis, because I felt like that was pretty interesting, just as far as Sam's character. Whenever she gets pointed out that Jason is a danger to her and her kids, she's in full denial mode. And I'm sitting there thinking, whatever people thought about Drew, or whatever people thought about Jason as Drew, that version of Jason was willing to give up the life, the business, with Sunny, his friendship with Sunny, his friendship with Carly, to be there for Sam and the kids. Sam and the kids was enough for that version of Jason. This version of Jason comes back, and it's back to business as usual. And Sam is okay with that. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, listen, I get it. Sam and Jason, that's the thing. They're, I'm not going to sit there and say whatever the millennials say. But, they're a thing. But then I also sit there and look at it and, using logic, whatever. I'm just like, this guy, it's more just like, have you learned nothing from Carly and Sunny and everything that they've been through because of the business and how it affected their family, how it got Michael shot, how it got Christina kidnapped. Your sister, by the way, Morgan's dead. How at one point I think even Elizabeth's kids got Jake got kidnapped, and Jason had to sit there and save him. And with everything and all that being said, you're still able to rationalize being with Jason. Listen, I mean, you can sit there and say what you want. I think they're cool together or whatever. They've been, been a pair and whatever. But, like, just logically from a family point of view, it's like, yeah, it's cool when it was just y'all two, but now you have kids. So, and we're still good with this? Okay, cool. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it, and just mostly rambling. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I hope everyone has a great weekend. Write your comments down below, because I always read the comments. That is something I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to read the comments. Even when I get more subscribers, I'm going to sit there and always read the comments, so I really do appreciate when people write their comments and their thoughts. And also, it's not even just I appreciate people doing it for those reasons, but also when they write, when people write their comments, they're writing their perspective on their characters, and a lot of times I'll sit there and read it and be like, you know what, that's pretty interesting. I never really thought of it that way. And so going forward into doing more reviews and stuff like that, I do take other people's comments and perspectives, under advisement whenever I'm doing my reviews. And that does actually help me do my reviews a lot better. So I do want to thank people for subscribing, for writing comments and stuff like that, because, at the end of the day, it's a story with a lot of different people's point of views. There's a point of view, and I gotta sit there and say this before I go, where people were defending Nell like hell when it came towards Carly. That it was Carly's fault, she was responsible. If Carly didn't leave her alone, it's all her fault and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. That is a very interesting take. So I do love hearing people's perspectives and stuff like that, even if it's something that I don't necessarily agree with. So again, thank you. And enough of me rambling. Have a good day, good night. Depending on when you're watching this, be safe. Catch you in the next review.